Go back up to the concrete statement. The concrete statement said that because the first phase of the work at in the banks is heavily involved in concrete work, that type of work does not provide a lot of opportunities for minority businesses. Minority businesses, somewhere in minority now you'll find black, right? For minority businesses to participate. I was shocked when I read that, especially coming from Mr. Ellington, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I know that he knows that there is a black-owned concrete company in the city of Cincinnati right on Florence Avenue that could do that work and more. They've demonstrated, been in business for 11 years. They've demonstrated their capacity to pour concrete, to pump concrete, to do all the things that it takes to build a concrete structure. You can go down Burnett Avenue right across from Children's Hospital Complex and see a garage. I think it's about, 10 stories that this concrete company, black owned, built. The name of the company is Jostin Concrete, Jostin. It's on Florence Avenue. They can do the work. But yet the article says that because the first phase of the bank's work is concrete, that's low participation for minority-owned companies. That's why the numbers are low, because there are not a lot of opportunities in concrete contracting for minority-owned companies, which a black company would be considered in that minority category, even though I don't call this company a minority company, I call it a black company. So I wrote a letter to the editor of the Herald in response to that article, and especially in response to those comments and that quote. And I want to read this letter to you. It's only about 4 paragraphs, 4 short paragraphs. It says, to the editor, this is in reference to your article on economic disparities. You cite Gene Ellington's response, quote, minority business participation in the bank's project is low because of the concrete work that is involved in building the infrastructure, foundation, and garage work. That type of work does not provide a lot of opportunities for minority businesses to participate, end quote. I have to believe that Ellington's statement on this particular aspect of work on the banks was misunderstood. Gene Ellington, of all people, knows full well that there is a black-owned concrete company in Cincinnati that has demonstrated its ability to build garages and other concrete infrastructure. I cannot believe he meant what was stated in the article. Jostin Concrete, located on Florence Avenue, poured the concrete for the Cincinnati Children's Hospital parking garage on Burnett Avenue, as well as many other projects across the state of Ohio and Kentucky. This firm has also demonstrated its willingness to hire what most folks call the, quote, hard to hire, unquote, another term for ex-offenders. Jostin supports community groups, youth groups, and provides mentoring and information to Cincinnati Public School students. If the primary contractors involved in the concrete work on the banks would simply have expanded their reach to include Jostin as a subcontractor, the, quote, minority, unquote, participation on the initial phase of the banks could have exceeded the workforce goal. Jostin Concrete hires the very population that is most often excluded from the process. Finally, one of the greatest problems we have in this town when it comes to economic development is that the actual development via contracts and other business opportunities seldom find their way to black businesses and black workers. That's the letter I wrote to the Herald. It should be in the April 18th edition of the Cincinnati Herald. This is the kind of information that if we don't respond to it, it will go out and people will read it and they'll say, oh, well, okay, well, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. We don't have any concrete companies. We do. Jostin is the largest, not just black-owned, probably minority-owned, I hate to use that term, but that's the term you understand, concrete company in this region. But yet, they are not pouring concrete to any great degree on the banks, nor on other major building projects that are going on in this city, public and private. That's shameful. I would even characterize it as sinful, because somebody's hoarding, someone is being greedy and taking everything and not willing to share it. That's as prime contractors who have gotten the big multi-million-dollar contracts, who could say, hey, Jocelyn, come on in and do some subcontract work for us. They could do it, but they don't. And my conclusion is they're just greedy, just straight up greedy and want it all. I don't want to share anything. I don't want Jocelyn to have anything. I want them to go out of business. But we have to stand up and speak against that kind of activity, because it makes no sense for us to allow our businesses to flounder and to go lacking when there is work. It makes no sense for our people to suffer the highest unemployment rate, and we just merely complain about the unemployment rate when we could do something about it. How? Make sure that companies that hire the people that are unemployed here in Cincinnati, not imported from someplace else, make sure that those companies get some contracts. People can't hire if they don't have any business. Jocelyn Concrete has demonstrated in the past that it will hire hard to hire populations. They've done it many, many times. They have contributed who knows how much money to community activities. They are a good corporate citizen. But one thing they will not do, and that is collude. They will not get involved in dishonest transactions. I know that for a fact. I've seen it. And maybe that's the kind of company that the establishment does not want around. An honest company that will do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Maybe they don't want that, especially in the black community. But we ought to be proud that we have a company like that here in Cincinnati. And we should do everything we can to see that it gets the opportunity to be involved in major development projects in the city of Cincinnati. Because we know that as it grows, who knows, maybe your child or your grandchild might be able to get a job there. So this is the kind of, like I said, spin that goes on a lot in this town, and it continues to play into what Einstein said. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results.